Probably well over 20 years ago, we were at a house up in Columbus fighting the weather all week long. You could just see the paint. It was coming down the house and it was just washing across their driveway. And it's always special when that happens. But there are products, but I think they've just gotten better probably over the last 5 or so years.
Right, yeah, not too long at all. Yeah. The Ohio Painting Company podcast back inside here in Dayton, Ohio, inside of the cage this time, which we didn't get to check out the last time we were, I guess, at the shop here in Miamisburg. So thanks for having me back up. And
right on.
Thanks for letting me in the cage. Tons of stuff in here that you guys use all the time. Your checkout system, I'm sure, is working well. I didn't even know this was here the last time. But this, kind of looks like a sales rack almost.
Yeah, and it almost is, yeah. What we do is, we'll come in and grab it and check it off and put it on the right job. Make sure we calculate all the numbers so that our margins are right. And, it works out well.
For sure. And today we wanted to discuss weather, and that is weather that could be moving into wherever you may be painting on your exterior project. So weather and weather you should be painting when the weather moves in. So
whether or not to paint.
Exactly. Whether or not to paint. The situation that you could get yourself in is rain coming down on wet paint. Several weeks ago, we were talking about, these very basic rules about painting.
Right.
Obviously, you're not going to paint outside if it's raining.
Right.
But you did make a good point that these are good tips for DIYers.
Yeah.
And, very basic stuff. And deeper into the podcast, we'll hopefully get to some more advanced techniques that you guys typically do and work with each and every day that you're out in the field. But weather, okay? You can't paint when it's raining. So, just start with that, and then we'll see where we go.
So I think the biggest part of weather, of course, is you don't know if it's going to, you have no idea. It might not. It could be 70% chance of rain, and we're going out to paint because you just, there's probably a 70% chance at that time that it's not going to rain also. So, you're talking about isolated areas of the area that it's in, generalizing, if that even is a word. But, so we're out to paint, and the only time that we stop is by checking the weather, throughout the day constantly. And when we forget, we get caught. And when we don't, we do good. So,
did you ever see the debate online? It was about what does 70% mean? Okay,
no.
So typically you would think that there is a 70% chance that it's going to rain where I am. But the debate online was that's not what it means at all. It means that 70% of the entire area could experience rain. Not that you have a 70% chance of it raining exactly where you are. It's kind of difficult to.
No, I got you. Yeah.
Percentage of an area, not percentage.
Okay.
Chance.
Okay.
It's all good.
I just learned something, whether I like it or not.
I think you knew that because that was something
it's been a while
knew.
Though. It's been a while, but you would really know that coming from radio. Did you do the weather?
I learned maybe in 2023.
Really?
Yeah.
So just last year.
Yeah. You did say you're going out there if there's a 70% chance of rain, because it might not. But even when there's a 30% chance of rain, it'll rain.
It could. That's right. That's whenever it does. So what do you think? You think that the percentage, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, sometimes it seems very obvious that the rain is going to move in, or the weather, the cold temperatures, whatever it is, that it becomes very obvious. So I think here at the office, we spend time actually kind of not just looking at what that rain chance is or even what the hourly is saying, but trying to look at radar and just double check to make sure that if anything looks disruptive or whatever. And then we're also trying to gauge where it is actually moving compared to where some of the crews are at. So if we know we've got a crew exterior down in Cincinnati and we see that coming in, it's like, oh, we need to shut that down, or you're not going to be outside today. And actually, we did that this morning. We had a crew coming up from Cincinnati up to Dayton to do a deck, which you do not want to paint if there's rain, a deck if there's rain within 24 hours. So we had to call him and let him know that, because it's the chance is a decent chance overnight. It's not like a 15% chance. Since there's a chance overnight, that we cannot come and paint his deck today. So because it's just too risky and it'll mess the deck up. So we have to wait. Have to wait it out.
Davonna Sillaman, by the way, Kevin Sillaman.
I was wondering if that was
Founders
I
and
almost
owners.
introduced myself. It's like, boy, our host is really taking a sabbatical on the intro.
Sorry. I've been out of the broadcast business for a while. This is as close as I can get to it. So our wonderful founders and owners of the Ohio Painting Company here with us, Kevin and Davonna Sillaman. We'll flash your names up on the screen here to make sure everybody knows who you are. And but so when I'm thinking about rain, because I've been caught before, we have a back shed in our house. That's for sale, by the way. Find it on Zillow. I start going to town on this shed that we have, and here comes the big dark cloud. And I said, I bet I can get this done before it opens up. And boy, was I wrong. So getting caught in that, is it just in your brain, we got to start this over, this is destroyed? Where do you go?
Well, it depends. So if we have 15 minutes, if we can look at, well, first of all, like Davonna said, we're watching the radar. If the wind's taking it just past us, we're like, keep painting, you'll be all right, because it takes a lot for the wind to shift. Spring and fall, it can do a number on you. But for the most part, you can watch where that current's going, throughout the hour and be fine. But we do work with paints that if we've got, 15 minutes or so, we're going to be fine. So, we could be painting up to 15 minutes and see a big dark cloud coming and say, let's hold off, or check the weather, check the radar, see if things are working there and into our favor. And if they're not, then we'll stop. But no, the worst part is you look like a dork out there. It's overcast the whole day, and they're like, oh, yeah, you're going to paint, huh? On my house, huh? And we're like, yeah, we are, huh? But you don't have a choice.
Right.
The weather is so back and forth that it would just hold up so much production if we really went by, I hate to say this, but what the normal person thinks, that you should be painting, in that type of weather. But once again, Sherwin-Williams, one of the products anyway, two of them that they've come out with, you can paint 15 minutes afterwards and before the monsoon. I'm sorry, not after.
Right, yeah.
And you'll be fine. I've literally seen it dripping the water over the gutter system on a darker paint and nothing at all coming over.
That's amazing.
Pretty cool.
Now, is that something that has been relatively new in the painting industry, or has that been around for a while?
Well, back in the day when we painted together, they were coming out with certain paints that would do that. Duration had some good dry time and some things to block it. I think there was something from PPG that that had kind of the same thing going on. But having said that, it was probably well over 20 years ago. We were at a house up in Columbus, and it started pouring, and he had been spraying, but we had been fighting the weather all week long, and so he knocked on the client's door because you could just see the paint. It was coming down the house, and it was just washing across their driveway, and it's always special when that happens. But anyway, so there's that. But there are products, but I think they've just gotten better probably over the last 5 or so years.
Right. Yeah, not too long at all.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, Kirby Morris, that was that guy's name.
Oh, yeah?
I remember him, yeah. Well, I remember him for a lot of reasons. He's since passed, but super guy. He had more bees in his house, around his house.
Bees?
Yeah, bees. Like literally.
Every type of bee you can imagine.
Yeah, so besides weather, we're fighting bees, and the
Wasps.
one day that, and I'm not talking about a few, because we're okay with the few,
right?
But so we picked the one day that it looks like we might have the best chance, and once again it monsooned on us.
Goodness.
But like she said, knock on the customer's door, say, hey, I know this looks horrible right now, but don't worry about it. We're going to stick around. We're going to make sure that all the paint gets washed off. We're going to wash the rest of it off that doesn't, hasn't cured up, and we'll start again. But most importantly, we'll clean up the grounds. So oil's not going to do that. That's the great thing about it. Water's going to repel off of it, and it's not going anywhere. It doesn't matter if it's wet or not. In a metal roof, it'll put indentations in that roof if it's not dried, with a big heavy rain, and it'll look pretty coarse. But from a roof standpoint, you put another 2 coats on that to make sure you've got the right mills, and you're good. Visually, aesthetically, if you're up on the roof, you can see it.
Right.
But that's about it.
Talking about that standard, I've been around long enough working with you guys to know that you're going back out there and getting it complete, making sure that it's completely perfect, because that's kind of the mission when you start a project is to finish it. But if something does happen with rain or hail, we haven't really gotten into that yet, but I've known you guys to go right back out there, get up on the roof. It was a metal roof, I think, at the house, wooden exterior that you used the oil-based primer on to make it white.
Right.
And then I think they had a garage off to the left that had the black
So that's
metal
the
roof.
one, that's actually what I was just
okay,
referring
great.
to. Yeah, that's it. And that's how you find those things out, is by the experience. Now, the homeowner got up, to take a look. I don't know if it was, to the cure or what, but engineer type guy, so type A, just wants to make sure that everything's aligned. And that's where, we've got a 4-year warranty on anything at all.
Great.
That, if anything happens, except for weather.
Okay.
Except for water. But in that scenario, it didn't matter because, we were the ones out there taking the chance.
Right.
And, it just didn't cure. In fact, they had a beautiful done. I mean, it was done. It was beautiful. And everything was great. And then one cloud came in, and it took 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was out of there. But it destroyed this metal roof. So, yeah.
And that's a case in point of a day that there was not actually really any rain in the forecast. So it can get you when you least expect it, and that's just the way weather is.
Yep. Squalls will come in.
That's exactly
That's
right. Yes. Big old swalls of clouds.
Yeah. Okay, well, we can't stop at just rain. There's plenty of other weather. Obviously, you guys aren't painting if it's freezing cold outside, which we experience quite a bit of that here in the state of Ohio. But, when it comes down to other things, wind, I mean, that's a big deal, especially for spraying.
Yeah, it's a big variable, yeah.
That's another thing you got to keep an eye on.
Yeah, so, you learn pretty fast. Well, first of all, if the guys come back, to the shop and the side of their face is plastered one side, you know they've been painting in the wind. But that's when you learn how to paint, though. I mean, whenever you really learn how to spray, because you can go into that wind and not against it. Not out from it, and use your shields. I mean, and learn how to do that. And it really is. That's probably the best way to learn how to paint. You're either going to get it on the roof if you don't know how to do it, or you're going to get it all over you. Those are the two things. So, if you can come into the shop and on a windy day and you don't have any paint on you at all, and nobody's called and said, "Hey, my roof's got white paint all over it and it's black," or vice versa. Because oddly enough, same house, that had the metal roof on the garage or on the barn, we had overspray on their roof. They had taken the gutters off, I believe, yes, because they were black, and I'm almost 100% that the roof was black. And whenever we painted the fascia, before the gutters got put back on, this is farm town,
right.
So it's nothing but wind all the time, right? And they didn't use shields, apparently. Or if they did, it was just so much that they weren't painting towards the wind. They were painting, and letting that wind take it instead of... See, again, okay, so if you're painting this way, if your spray's going this way and your wind is coming this way, that force is doing well, right? It's going against it, so it's landing. In fact, that wind is just taking that paint and going wham and just slamming it on there, right? So that's good. That sounds crazy to not paint to paint in the wind, but that's what you do. Now you go the other way, right? And you're painting with the wind, and there it goes.
Just everywhere, right?
Yeah. So a couple of good techniques there that need to be learned, and other than that, you can do well. But wind is a horrible thing at times. I mean, it can make a mess. We have taken 7 cars, one after the other, and that's when you have to trust. I mean, whenever somebody comes up and says, "Hey, can I take your car to the car wash?" Because if not, it's up to you, and you can't sue us because I'm offering.
Right.
You can either take it right now, and it sounds awful, but we just happened to be at a shopping center in Lebanon, and we walked into pretty much one store, and that's where all the cars were that were just lined up. So we just took them right down the road, and we'd been there all week, so they were kind of like, we know you. And plus, I don't think we look too rough, maybe with this little
that's all right.
shady stuff there.
Did you have the Marietta Tiger sweatshirt on?
I did not. And Marietta is kind of like a what's that movie, that show?
Gee, I don't know.
It has to do with this shirt too.
Oh, right. That'd be Harry Potter.
Harry Potter, yes.
When it comes to, back on topic here, when it comes to, the bigger stuff, hail can come in the middle of summer.
Yeah.
If you get a strong enough storm system coming through, you can get, ice coming right down on your property, right onto your, the roof that you just got done painting, things like that. Is hail kind of backed up into that water warranty thing that you mentioned a little bit ago?
Well, I think that day that they actually did have hail that came out, and that's why he wanted to go up and take a look, to see what type of damage was there, because nothing came off the building, again, it being oil. I think that's the only time that we've ever incurred hail. Normally, if the storm system's coming in and it's that bad and we know about it, we take the day off.
Right.
Because then you really look like a dork. It's like, it's going to hail today, buddy. So anyway, yeah.
Now, with a metal roof, hail, that could put a noticeable dent, right?
Yeah, but there's nothing,
right.
No warranty on the metal. It's not us. It's,
right.
Yeah, but there's nothing that's going to not a good quality oil like we were using on that particular roof. That stuff is amazing. And no, that basically just formed, since it wasn't cured, it just formed right with the dents.
Right.
Yeah. So then whenever we went to go fill it in, it actually looked as if, it was still bad, but no, that's from the hail.
Got it.
There's nothing we could have done there.
Right. Now, I am wondering about paint. You said that some paints, they have the ability to dry up in 15 minutes or so, right? But does it continue to harden over the course of, say, a week or several days after that? Yeah,
those products actually don't dry cure anything at all. They just put a layer over the top and make it resilient to the rain.
Okay.
So yeah, it's more like a film, almost in oil, so to speak. But it's just repelling it. It's not that it's cured, and it does take a little bit for it to dry up, to cure, to make it hardened. So probably about 3 or 4 weeks, depending on the weight. Depending on the weighing.
I'm interested to know if there's you mentioned the parking lot with the cars and the taking them over to a car wash or something like that. But how far can paint travel? What's the complaint area when you're spraying?
Yeah,
really.
Miles.
Tell about the PCA thing we were just at.
Yeah, there was actually when we were at the PCA Expo a couple weeks ago. There was an owner talking to us, and he doesn't want his crews spraying, and we can't imagine if we put that thumb on our crews, because it would feel like they never got anything done, and they would be like, "You're kidding me, right?" But he said because he knew of somebody else that had sprayed, and it had gone several miles, and there had been a lawsuit for his company, and so it basically just put this guy out of business. So number one, you want to make sure you're insured enough to manage things and anything of that nature. So I don't know how that was proven, but I guess it could be, because it's where did it come from, and who could have been painting within the same radius? I guess there's color and things like that, but it can travel a good ways. Wow. So, but typically you're thinking that it's going to be like dry. So it's going to dry at some point even in the air. So it should come off basically as a dust. Now, when it got on the roof up there, they were spraying oil, and that was what had got on the roof. And so that was not, because it was oil, it was not able to be cleaned, and we weren't able to touch up the roof in any sort of way. So we actually had to do some roof replacement, shingle replacement up there.
Man, I would have never guessed that it could travel that far wet and remain wet.
I think one of the things that it does too is it may dry. Well, if it's oil, it's going to take a lot longer. And then the curing process that we just talked about, even though it's dry, it's going to take a while to cure. So if it lands on something and then that sun hits it and just bakes it because it's not cured, right? So it could be dust, but it's not cured yet, so it's landing, and then the sun just bakes on it, and then it'll form, and if they don't wash it off fast enough, it'll cure on the car. So I think that's what happened, and I believe it was a specific color, like, let's call it, Bengal brown, or something. But I mean, or that'd be with the Browns. Bengal orange. We're gonna have to do a lot of editing on this show.
That's all right. No, we're not. I'm wondering.
It's like, no, we're not. We're gonna leave that in.
Yeah, everything's staying in.
It's all staying in.
Because honestly, the Browns aren't even brown, are they?
They're orange and brown. Yeah.
Orange and brown.
Yeah.
I'm wondering. I want to ask you this question because we do need to wrap up pretty soon. But it sounds like, just from our conversation over the last however many minutes, wind is definitely the biggest pain in the rear end.
It is, because again, water, that's not a big deal. You can, you can wash most things off, but if you don't have the neighbors' cars covered, if you're not, you've really got to watch it because of the wind. Even the windows of the neighbors, it's amazing how many people find, and sometimes it's literally just dirt specks. It might even be a lot like, what a fly dropping looks like. It's just a little tiny black dot, right?
Okay.
But it's hard to come off, right? You really have to scrub on it, right? Well, if you're spraying anything at all black, all the fly droppings in the world, people are like, yeah, that's paint. I'm like, okay, sure. So we go over and scrape it off. Not a big deal.
How about presenting that in court? Okay, this is actually our scientific
the feces log.
Oh my gosh!
Open up your humongous encyclopedia. It's like this. It's fly feces.
Yeah.
But it all does come into play: the rain, the wind, and then the temperatures, especially here in the spring. We're battling all of it, and it's a constant daily thing. It maybe. We've got dry weather, but the temps are dropping at a certain point. So they're getting up warm enough, but then they're dropping pretty low. So it's kind of risky to paint at that point as well, because that could hurt the cure of the exterior paint. And so that could be a problem. You could also have, if you're doing gutters, you could have condensation that builds up because of dew or frosting. And so that will make them not look well once it's all said and done, after that goes away, after the temps warm up. So you do have to watch it. So you have to shorten windows of time, and then just watching the weather, because you can have a lot of rain in the forecast, and you've got every single crew outside, and you listen to the forecast and you listen to the weatherman, and you're like, well, it looks like we need to be inside, and you don't see a speck of rain for 3 days, and you thought it was going to be pouring all the days. So it can be really frustrating. So sometimes it is a day by day kind of thing. It'd be frustrating for the client, but we're trying to make the best decision for their project, and for, because we don't want obviously the crew to have to redo it, or the cleanup of said potential things that can happen from the weather.
And spring and fall are the worst. Mm-hmm. Every year it's the same thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's not even just with the wind, though. A factor about the other thing about the weather is you do have to be careful of lightning, but during a thunderstorm, so you want them away from ladders and things like that. But the wind can also be dangerous with a ladder or even shields. I've had shields come at my head off of a roof, and so you've got to be thinking about all kinds of things. It's more than just the paint.
Yeah. I really like the point you brought up about the neighbor. I never, ever thought of that. And there's another podcast that I do that's all about pest control and lawn care. And when they're out spraying a lawn with pest, they say that more often than not, the client's neighbor is crazy.
Yeah.
And they're going to come out and they're going to have masks on and they're going to complain about how, oh, you're killing me with all these chemicals that you're using. And they say their clients typically live next to crazy. I'm not saying your neighbors, the client neighbors are crazy, but do you have to go over there and knock on their doors and say, hey, we're going to be spraying today. We're going to cover your car.
If they're home, yeah, we do. I mean,
we have to.
Yeah.
We have, but I mean,
yeah, absolutely, we did. Yeah, we didn't want to paint anybody's car, so
right.
if we could get somebody, but probably we're gonna put plastic over it if they didn't answer. We don't want to paint their car. If we're pretty sure that paint is gonna whip around that house and get a wind tunnel going and possibly hit a car in a driveway, we'd rather cover it and then be mad that we covered it and then paint it and then be mad that we painted it.
Yeah.
So
imagine that the anger factor would be so much more if there was paint on their car.
Yeah. I'd just go over and knock on the door. I'd make a joke about it. I'd say, hey, I didn't know if you noticed, but we're spraying, your neighbor's house and I've got white.
Right.
And I don't have the color of your car, unfortunately. So, do you mind either moving it or, or whatever it is? And then 9 times out of 10, we're covering it up.
What about masking their windows? I mean, do you ever throw that out too?
No. There's not very many people that, even inner city, like whenever there's barely enough room to get a ladder in there, we've really never had the challenge. But we have had it. I mean, without a doubt. We've had customers say, I can see it on my windows, so, we'll go over. Luckily, they didn't see it on their vinyl somehow, or whatever it was on their house. But, it's some of them, it's because of the neighbor thing.
Right.
Like the pest control.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. But
you do have to be careful.
Yeah.
Man, I love these conversations. I learn so much more, a little bit more about what you guys do and how you do it each and every time we fire up the cameras and do one of these episodes. How much PSI does a paint sprayer push out?
It depends. It depends on what you knob it into.
Right, because all I think of is pressure washing, like with water.
Yeah.
And, they can get up as high as, however many, 3,000 PSI, probably
even
even
so you
higher
can do
than that.
4. Yeah, we carry 4,000 on the PSI for the sprayers. But it's more about the gallons per minute.
Okay.
So you can have a, 4,000 PSI pressure, but how many gallons is it really pushing out? And that's what really can annihilate some stuff.
Right, yeah. Because I was thinking, like, when you're pressure washing, like I did the ceiling of my back deck. And when you get right to the edge and it hits the very tip and it blasts out, I'm just thinking if that was paint, holy moly.
Yeah.
It's time to start cleaning up, figure out where it's going to go. Because it does travel. And if it's windy, forget it.
Yeah, that's without a doubt, right? But a lot of those sprayers that we have, they're all the way down to handhelds, like little,
little guys,
kind of cup things. HVLPs, high volume, low pressure. So
everything that you didn't know that you wanted to know about painting is right here on the Ohio Painting Company podcast with Kevin Sillaman and Davonna Sillaman here in the Cage in Miamisburg. Thank you so much, guys.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We'll talk next week.
All right.
See you then.